Hey, you guys, this is Viviana Carlos, and I am a domestic violence survivor. So, today I'm going to be sharing with you the beginning of the relationship I ended up in when I was 18 years old. He was supposed to be 22, and come to find out, he was 27, and he had 9 more years on me. And I feel like he took advantage of the point, knowing that I was young and knowing where I came from. He knew he was going to be able to manipulate me a little bit more. So, we first started going out and getting to know each other. We really didn't do much. I went out with his brother and, we would go party. We would come back and he'd be there. And, we had more than just a friendship going on. A year later, it was his birthday. And I remember calling him and telling him, hey, I got you something for your birthday. And he asked me for a favor. I did his favor. And he realized that I was a loyal person and he wanted to keep me around. So he told me if anything I needed, he would help me out. And he knew I had nowhere to go, so he offered me to stay there and I stood there with him. He would never admit that he wanted to be my boyfriend. If anybody asked, he'd be like, "That's not my girlfriend," and like make the ugliest face, like, "How dare you say this girl is my girlfriend?" He would be upset because I didn't know how to cook and be a housewife when I wasn't raised to be a housewife. And I remember being very upset with my mom, thinking if she would have just showed me how to be a housewife, my relationship with this guy would be perfect. Because he was a really cool guy. He just took out all his anger on me. So I hated a lot of people in this relationship. I didn't like nobody. I didn't like myself. I didn't like him. And I just did because he was very controlling. He started, keeping a close watch on me. He didn't like me going out with his sisters anymore. He made it awkward around me and his sisters. They didn't like me anymore. Um, he just would talk so much about me. It was just horrible. And then he would accuse me of being with other people. He would just be like, "Who are you looking at? And why are you looking out the window while we're driving?" He was just rude, and he started to be verbally abusive, emotionally abusive. He would call me ugly. He would call me fat. He would accuse me of being with people that I didn't even know. Um, it got ugly really fast. He ended up going to jail, and when he came out, he was very upset. Like, why didn't you write to me? Why didn't you go see me? And how dare you? I have you here in my house when he didn't see that I went to work so I can pay his part of the rent. Like, didn't make sense. So after this, he started getting more emotionally abusive, more where he wanted to isolate me. I no longer talked to my friends. I no longer talked to my family. I had rarely seen my son. Um, the first time he became abusive, I had my driving test to take. And I went to go take the driving test. And on my driving test, I ended up failing it. And the driver, I knew he was going to write this. And I made sure to make it overdoing that I was looking over my shoulders, overdoing looking in the mirrors. Because that's what they tell you, like everybody before you go take your driving test, they tell you, like, make sure you're looking in the mirrors and make sure that you're turning your neck. And, you know, I made sure I did this for a reason. When I would drive, he would tell me, turn your head, turn your effing head. So I would turn my head, and it's sad that still to this day, when I turn my head, I still think about him telling me that, turn your head or I'm going to turn it for you. Like, it was just freaking horrible. I failed a test, and this is what's written on my test. Failure to constantly turn her head, failure to constantly look in the mirrors, and he is pissed off. Like, how can you do this? How can you fail? Like, how many times did I tell you to turn your freaking head and you don't listen and you're freaking dumb, and how can you fail this and now you have to do it over again? And I was just like, what the hell? Like, I failed it. It's okay. I can take it again. You know, it's not like I failed it and I can never take this test. So I was like, yeah, yeah, whatever. I don't care. Like, I didn't want to hear him. So I remember ripping up the test and I throw it out. And he's like, why would you do that? Why would you throw out the test like that? I'm like, I don't need it. What do I need it for? It's stupid. Like, you could have looked at that paper. And I'm just like, okay. He's like, his friend was driving and he tells his friend, take her home. I don't want her with me. So I'm like, okay, wait, I live with you. What do you mean? Where am I going? So he drops me off at my mom's house. I'm like, okay, this is how he wants to do it. That's fine, you know. At the time, I was supposed to be watching his sisters every morning. Not his sisters' kids, his nieces. And obviously, I wasn't going to go the next day. So I remember going to my friend's house and I was telling her, like, hey, do you think I could borrow your truck so I could go pick up my stuff? They let me borrow the truck. I go pick it up. And then he's there and he's just like, how dare you? You know, you didn't even come watch my sister's kids. And I'm like, you kicked me out. Like, you took me to my mom's. What do you think I'm going to come over here for, you know? So I'm getting all my stuff and I'm throwing it into the truck. And um, he goes into the room and his brother's there because he hears us arguing. And his brother's standing in between us. And he just leaps over and slaps my face. And I remember trying to go over the brother and trying to hit him and slap him back, but like, his brother was like, no, don't do nothing, dude. Like, he's gonna make it worse. Just leave it like that, you know? And I was just like shocked. Like, I couldn't believe he did this to me. So I remember I was crying and I was taking my stuff to the car. And yeah, I left it like that. I went to the house and my friends seen my face and they couldn't believe it. They were like, oh my God, what happened? And I told them and they're like, don't go back with him, you know, stay away from him. That's the story of that. I end up calling him back and apologizing for not going to watch his sister's kids. And he's like, I'm sorry for hitting you. I shouldn't have done that. And there I go. So the next story. Um, it just shows you that once you accept abuse in your life, or just wanting to feel love at the time, it shows you what you're willing to put up with. And it's a sad thing. And I wish I could go back and tell myself how beautiful I was and how much more I deserved and how much potential I had. And I hope, I'm going to say this all the time, I'm going to say this every story I tell. I hope that somebody hears my story and somebody can get something out of this before it gets too far, before you have to sit and tell your story, or before nobody, you know, before someone else has to tell your story because you can no longer speak. Have a good day, guys.